All right, I've gone ahead and started the recording. We just wanted to welcome all of you to Fall COVID 2020 and thank you for coming back, being awesome. We have all veteran staff. I know we have a few people that are assisting that aren't veterans, but it's basically all veterans that are great at what they do and have been with us before. Let's go over some fall updates. For example, we are going to be at Hoover instead of Madison. The decision was finalized today. We are going to be, and that's on Saturdays. We'll be at Loma on Saturdays as planned. And instead of Ventana, we will be at James Monroe on Sundays. Reminder of the times that we start. It's an 11 a.m. Start for actual practices on Sundays, and it's 9 a.m., right, for the other ones, Dan? 9 a.m. on Saturdays?
Saturdays, yep, and 11 a.m. for Sundays, unless, Roger, you want to change it back to noon now since we have James Monroe, or we can just stay at 11.
I think 11 is
Nothing's
fine.
been sent out yet.
And that's not what time you guys show up.
Perfect.
That's the time they actually launch. So no 6:30 a.m. though, since we're not doing 8 o'clock starts this season. Okay, another good change this season is that the governor has expanded the youth programs, or as they're still calling it, is youth summer programs. They've just decided not to rename it since everybody understands that youth summer programs has its own set of rules for certain businesses and entities to follow. That's now at a 10-to-1 ratio. What that means is that our roster size is up to 10. Most of them are not all the way up to 10. It also leaves room then for there to be 2 coaches. The whole point, as you all probably know, is COVID contact tracing. Should there be any instances of COVID, knock on wood, we are going into our 3rd season during COVID of having 0 cases, no tracing calls. Everyone's done an excellent job of staying on top of sanitation, and we really, really appreciate that. The before, during, and after, I think most of the during we see is t-ball and sometimes basketball if they're sharing a ball. But we just really appreciate how hard you guys have worked to make sure to follow those rules that we do have to be very visible following with the face mask and really helping adults follow the face mask rule, and you guys wearing them yourselves. Again, we just want to make sure you know how much we appreciate that. Okay, go ahead, Dan, your turn on the agenda.
All righty. So guys, the next thing that we're gonna just get into real quick, everything is gonna stay the same as last season. You guys are the lead instructors out there on the field. We're gonna have some coaches who wanna coach themselves, obviously. We get that more from the veteran coaches, but everybody else though, we're almost to the point where every roster has one team parent assigned. Luke, for someone like you with lacrosse, there's only the 6 kids, so that's kind of, you guys are doing that. And I know Shane is going to do Loma baseball because it's just one team each time slot. And we've got our cheer coordinators. But again, for you guys are the lead instructors, and it starts the first day. I think one of my next points we'll get into, we'll kind of cover an example of what kind of happened at Madison soccer the beginning of last summer season. But we want to avoid people contacting us and saying there was no one to help us. I remember after the first couple weeks, I had some emails and phone calls with parents who basically said, and they could have just been, completely BSing, but again, I'm not sure. But they would tell me that there was no staff on the field. They weren't going back and forth. And again, this was in the beginning, because I know everything got better once I chatted with a few soccer people. And I'll kind of jump into that. If I know it was Jessica, Molly, Ian, and Esperanza last season with Madison, there was a coach who had called me and said there wasn't any help, but I addressed it with you guys, and you guys made it awesome. And we were able to kind of get everybody into that groove of going back and forth, because remember, you guys will show them the drills at the center. The team parents will mirror the drill of what you guys are doing. And then for you guys, you need to basically go from quadrant to quadrant, and basically, make sure they know what they're doing. You won't need to do it with some of them because they'll feel comfortable doing it, but we want to be proactive and do a great job out there. And again, it starts day one right away.
And remember, one of the most, I'm so sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
good. I was just going to touch on that point. You can do either demonstrate in the center, but if you need kids to do your demonstration, you can also rotate from quadrant to quadrant as you're demonstrating your drills.
Mm-hmm.
So that works well as well.
One of the ways that you set the tone is being in charge of the warm-up. So remember, on your job description, and there's the little card cheat sheets at the tent if you need any, that just steps right through what your time slot looks like. When you, there's two ways you set the tone. One is asking those questions of the coach or the parent helper that was supposed to make sure that everyone already did their temperature checks, or sending them to the tent if they hadn't. And then two, when you kick off that entire field warm-ups, that sets the tone of you being in charge and being present. Because one, now you've already talked to every coach on your field, so you have that relationship. And now two, you're setting your presence. Remember, we also have those awesome bullhorns that we've sent to every location. So if you feel a little bit, if you're not naturally loud and boisterous or animated about how you go through warm-ups or skills and drills, grab those. I think they've been a success. I think Hamilton or Tony, do you want to speak to the use of the bullhorns this last season?
Go ahead, Hamilton.
Yeah, I'll speak on them. I mean, I walked around Cabazon and stuff, like talking to parents and out loud so that everybody can hear me, and making sure that they work. I mean, I think Evan used them a couple of times or teach instructions and stuff. So, I mean, I think they're awesome. It's like I'd rather use that instead of the big old
PA
speaker thing that we have, whatever. I'd rather go around and just talk to people, and that way everybody can hear me, thumbs up me, and things like that. So I think they worked really well. So, I mean, I'm for them.
Awesome. And it's great if you can play your PA with music somewhere, setting the tone, the mood, for your field,
right,
and still be able to just go wherever you want with that bullhorn to make your announcement.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as Jessica has just pointed out, Tony just yells. So good job, Tony.
I'm loud. I stood in the middle of the soccer field and everybody on the field can hear me, so I'm loud. But I can speak for Alejandro. Really made really good use of the megaphones with cheerleading, especially. It was very good for him and for that one.
Excellent.
That's good to hear.
Do you want to move on? Go ahead and move on to the next topic, Dan. Is that fine?
Yes, yeah. So the point I wanted to make about the example at Madison Soccer last season, as most of you know, we have a Listen 360 survey that goes out to our folks, and I think it'll probably go out after week 3 or week 4 again for summer. And we want to get our scores up. We have you guys out there because we think you're doing an awesome job. But we want to see the scores go up. The scores it's a smaller season and less people taking it, but we don't want to see any red faces or hear any more red comments. So if things are going well with the parents and you're chatting with them and they're really enjoying it, tell them that the survey's coming out and to give us a 9 or 10, because it reflects on us to corporate in the end, and we want to get those scores up. And the example I bring up again with the Madison Soccer, where the coach was upset that nobody was helping him and he thought it was just kind of all thrown on him, or I should say the parent helper. But then I talked to Jessica, Molly, Esperanza, and you guys did an awesome job. The coach even called me that weekend after and said it was amazing. And I was hoping we'd maybe see some good scores from that. And when I saw some of our Listen 360 comments, they actually were some parents who were on that team originally. And we want to try and avoid that. So, if things are going good and you're talking to people and they're enjoying it, let's remind them, when the survey comes out, to take that survey so we can see some some better scores and use those kind of positive examples that we turn things around to, to show that we're doing a good job out there.
Yeah. There is, hold on one second.
And I should say too, Ian, I left you out there on that with the Madison thing. The coach really did enjoy having you out there, Ian, on the field with the kids as well.
Our daughter decided to start up our vacuums.
She ran
Out of
over
nowhere.
to the like robot vacuum and pushed the button so it'd say, "I'm starting to clean." No, I shut it off. Anyway, so just think of a couple lines and be ready to use them when it comes to someone having a good time or being happy. It's the same as you hear from Starbucks or all sorts of places after you have had good service. So often someone says, "Hey, I would really appreciate when the survey comes around if you mention that. That would be awesome. It would help me out." Something super short and to the point that just says, "I'd really appreciate that you mention that on the survey." Anything that brings their attention to putting positivity towards that survey, because currently in the climate that we're all in, as you know, negativity is rampant and it makes people feel better apparently to spew their negativity in whatever general direction they can possibly make it land. And that has tended to be our survey. So if you have a positive person, ask them to also say so on the survey, please.
And well, I'd also say too, some of the scores for veteran staff, you know this, but some scores have nothing to do with you guys at all. It's just people like to complain sometimes.
Or not reading anything.
Yep,
We're 3
exactly.
seasons into only skills and drills, and I bet we will still have at least 3 people respond that we get a 0 out of 10 because we didn't play games, even though they've been told probably close to 12 times at this point via email, text, and their program notes that this is skills and drills. That's out of your control. All we can do though is make the skills and drills so good and so engaging that it doesn't matter that we're not having games because we're improving the player. And especially if parents realize that you play how you practice and we have great practices, then they're going to be happy for sure.
And then the next point that I'll just quick cover. So you guys have seen the schedule, and I've texted you all on kind of a one-off basis because it's just so small. Usually we do it via email and stuff, but you guys have told me that you're available, and I asked you for dates off, and if you told me, the schedule should reflect it. But the point that I want to cover is, even though it's a small season, I want to avoid any last-minute backouts from you guys, okay? Unless something comes up, and you let me know, or your site manager know, the Wednesday, no backing out, the Friday or before, or the Saturday. If you guys are sick, and, I know it's been a little bit differently with being sick, we got to be careful. But, if you're feeling sick by Thursday, and, let us know, because, we can make it work and figure something out. But I just want to avoid, I had a couple people I got texts from for other things that weren't sick related that they had to back out, and I want to avoid that. It's a 6-week session. It's only a couple hours. It's just 2 time slots at every location, actually. So it's not a huge thing for your Saturday or your Sunday. So just remember to stay committed to what you said you could work on. If anything needs to kind of be updated, if all of a sudden you might have a weekend off, let me know now. But I want to avoid any text the morning of or the Friday before. I want to go this whole season, knock on wood, trying not to get any of those.
And that brings me to a point about being sick during COVID season, that if you message that you're sick, we have to ask you if your symptoms are any COVID symptoms. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
If you say yes, then you now have to go get a COVID test and give it to me. That's simply our only way of staying open and operating. So if you think that saying you're sick is the very best way to get out of working one weekend, then most likely that's going to cause you problems, because then you're going to go get a COVID test to come back to work. All right.
Yes.
We were a little too lenient on that, and I can't, because should the state come knocking, that's our business on the line over, something that might be just going, be honest. I'm saying be honest. Don't back out, please. But if you're doing something because of a bad reason, we'd rather have that reason than a made up sick. All right.
What else is on the list?
Okay, the next point we've got right here is, your discussion about scrimmages.
All right, so over at Madison, and it's the football guys. I thought we did a really good job with basketball, soccer, t-ball, not to have scrimmages and whatnot going on.
And we say football guys, we're not saying like our employees guys. We're talking about
It's the coaches, and what it is, I filled in on week 2, and I could tell that there was a little bit of an adjustment with the coaches from what they experienced on the week 1. So you really have to set the tone early on how you want this program to go. If you give them an inch, they're going to take it. They're going to take a mile. That's just how it is with football. So the good thing is with this 10-to-1 ratio, we have a lot more built-in flexibility within each team now, because 5 is very restricted. If we're missing out on 1 kid or 2, under a 5-to-1 ratio, then that's only 3 kids. That's tough to run anything. But now, when rosters are really at 7 and 8 and 9 kids, if you're missing somebody, it's not too detrimental to a team. What we will allow is combo drills where you can run 2 receivers against 2 defenders. But it should be a progression, you're going to run your quarterback center exchange. You're going to work on drills your routes, your football routes. Work on 2 or 3 specific routes each and every week and build on that route tree. Then you'll transition into combo drills where you're going to go receivers against defenders. Then you might want to go into offensive plays versus defense. This is all within one team. So what we don't want to see teams marching up down the field where that can be construed as a scrimmage or a mock game.
Because guess what happened at Madison? Even though they weren't permitted to do it on our field, they insisted on going across the street to do it. And guess which location Parks and Rec got phone calls from and supposed evidence of us breaking rules, even though we made it very clear to these groups that we can't be associated with the choice they're making that's breaking the rules. It was associated with us.
So ultimately, we made a decision to be at Hoover because we didn't want to wait on Parks and Rec because they're dragging their feet on this. So that's where we're at. I think Luke, you might be working with Parks and Rec on that. Keep where our venues are in-house on this one.
Don't say anything about where we are.
We can talk offline on options because Alicia brought up lacrosse.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Luke, volume up.
We can barely hear you is all.
I'm sorry, I got a new headset. Can you hear me better now?
No.
A little more.
All right, let's try one more time.
I can hear you a little bit.
Is your microphone covered?
All right,
It's muffled.
There you go.
better?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got like 3 phones I have to switch between. So anyway, I will keep my mouth shut about that. I feel your pain. I'm having to deal with Parks and Rec right now for our program that's going to be happening at a different date, and it's absolutely painful. Balloon Fiesta was way more put together as far as the process went, so I get it 100%.
Talk with me offline, Luke, and we can give you some options there. So we have good relationships with the schools and kind of have a different blanket we're working under.
Yeah, we've
All right.
tried
That's
contacting
awesome.
the governor's office, the mayor's office, senators, representatives, everyone you can think of. So anyone else can feel free to reach out to them too. The mayor, I've emailed, called, we've gotten 0 responses. So we're sitting here following the rules laid out to us by the governor, and lots of entities say, yes, you're following the rules. That's the point. You read the rules, you follow them, you deal with the state. And the city is deciding to stick their nose in it, but not actually get any communication. For example, they want us to we call the state says you're good, you're following the rules. And then Parks and Rec says, well, we want a letter from the state saying that you're allowed to follow the rules and operate. And then the state says, tell them that that's exactly what a public health order is.
It's already put in writing.
Here it is in writing, saying if you follow these rules, you may operate. So, yeah.
Long story short, getting back to football, and not just football. I mean, the comment or complaint was that we were using soccer balls and footballs. So we took that offline, and we were addressing that with the state. Let me see. Okay.
Just a sec.
Doggone Siri.
Mute your phone.
We addressed that with the state and everything. So just as far as scrimmages go, keep it to combo drills. And I think we know exactly what a combo drill is versus a scrimmage or game.
Exactly. You want to tell them about the new equipment?
Yes, I do.
So Roger, have you had that conversation with the coaches?
It's on a recording.
They're being told.
Yes.
Presentation going out to them.
So I did a recording covering that.
I think my frustration with them on that one is I spoke to every parent and every coach the week before. I handed out personally all the flyers for the field day, and not one of them had the decency to say something to me. Oh, we don't do that. We have a scrimmage and we're approved by Roger, which is what they told me on the following weekend morning. Had I had something ahead of time, I could have reached out and said, hey, is this legit? And then you say no. And then I address it the previous weekend, and we don't have that issue the Saturday morning of the field day.
No, they decided to.
So I think that was my frustration.
Yeah.
Well, the two venues we have, we're nice and tucked away. We're not as in the open. So I think we'll be less under the microscope, what will help. But at the same point, we want to do our best to follow the rules. So.
Yeah. You want to go over the new stuff?
Yeah, and we don't want to burn, and we want to keep our relation. These schools are letting us use their facilities. We have good relationships with Hoover and James Monroe, and we don't want to ruin those at all. They're kind enough to let us use them. Their janitors are going to come out and let us in every day. So make sure to say thank you to them. We want to make sure we're doing everything right.
All right, we have new gear, and this is going to be a requirement. So soccer right now, I'm talking to soccer folks. If you notice at Madison, at some point we had the green long poles.
Those agility poles that stuck right into the ground and would flex back and forth.
I'll tell you, when I was coaching the first the delayed spring session, that was a hit among both of our teams because it just stands out way more than a flat cone, a disc cone. And you can use that for your snaking drills, but more importantly, a lot of our practice plans makes reference to a grid or a box where you're playing a game within a certain area. And those reference points are really, really good for your kids. So we ordered enough to have 4 per team. So if you have one soccer field, you're going to have 16 poles out there. So 4 per grid. Now flag football, we made quite the investment to help flag football because, up to this point, we haven't provided any extra equipment for skills and drills. We've relied on practice plans. Now we're devoting a resource to it. We bought 3 different quarterback trainer pros that has the X, Y, Z, and the bucket on the top. So this is a 9-foot drill that kids are going to want to throw and make it through the different slots. And I want our coaches to be really creative on how they can use those. So at flag football, we have three teams at one time for both time slots. So that's why we ordered 3 of these. So it costs over $1,200, but I think it will be a good resource for us, moving forward, especially while we're under this practice only. So I definitely want to see them used. I want to see, some touch passes and some focused throws. And I think the kids and coaches will have a good time with that. But at the same point, as a staff, let's take care of the gear, understand how to, take it out and just take good care of it. That's all I had on
So,
that.
Roger, I'm sorry. When you're speaking of gear for baseball, and I know we haven't got there yet, those targets that they throw into that are made out of PVC.
Yep.
Can we get some? I mean, I have PVC glue. Can I glue those together? Can we make them permanent, or do they need to be able to break down for storage reasons?
We can make it permanent other than the base itself. I think that should be the only thing. Like the whole base can be permanent, but the junction between the two should be separate so we can pack flat and not get
Okay.
snapped.
I may, if it's okay, take those one weekend if they're not used to the next weekend, and glue them, because I've got PVC glue.
I'll pay you to do it if you come to the office.
And take them.
Okay.
Yeah, we would love for that. It's been on the
Done.
to-do list, and we just have not been able to get around to it. We know exactly what you're talking about. We discussed it repeatedly.
Yeah, they're a pain in the butt to load and unload because they fall apart very easily.
Right, you just want it to be the two pieces. And mind you, we wish it could be just full on permanent, but the first version of them, I don't know if you saw those that had a different type of pipe, but it broke right off. People could not be careful enough for it to not break at that junction. But other than that, man, yeah, just glue them together.
Yeah, the couplers would break. When the kids would throw any T coupler, if the ball hit it, it would just snap and break. So I recreated everything that we have with PVC and just didn't glue everything. So.
Yeah. Any questions?
And even the base.
Oh, keep going.
Even the base part that you don't want glued, if we put a little tape around the end, it'll be a tighter fit and it won't come apart as easy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk about it when you come over, and we'll figure out the best method on gluing it.
Yeah, definitely. That would be awesome.
You got it.
But you guys can chat in questions or unmute yourself for questions. I just want to say again that we really appreciate how well you guys have pivoted in order to do this, the COVID version, and to keep kids engaged and to give them something to come do. I know it's difficult. Regular life is difficult right now, but putting on your plate, watching for people in masks and all of that, we just really appreciate the fact that you've been willing to do this with us.
3 things I wanted to cover. If you can always have this on your mindset, if you're going to take down any notes, this would be it. Number 1, how can I make the kids' experience better right now? Always have, that mindset while we're out there. Number 2 would be, how can I support coaches? And number 3, have I greeted or spoken with each of my parents? So, if things are going smooth and coaches are active with their drill, if you have a moment to talk to some parents, let's always engage our parents. And I think hitting on all 3 of those can't help but to create a very positive culture.
Exactly. Does anyone have any questions? We'll give you a minute to chat them in or to unmute yourself. Or
I think Allie does.
So not last season, but the season before, when we had volleyball at Hoover, we did it on the concrete basketball court, and it just did not work very well for drills. They couldn't sit and stretch without burning themselves. They couldn't dive for any balls without hurting their knees or their hands. And I don't know what else to do because we can't move those poles anywhere else.
At Hoover, you're saying. We can what if we put it over on turf? We haven't released the schedule yet, have we?
We have not, but the issue we will run into with it, and maybe it could be something where if we moved it, if it's possible, maybe if we moved it up to the courts by the mini gym, because there's shade up there, isn't there?
I don't think it's trees from here on out. It's the
surface, right?
surface.
Yeah, the
It's
biggest
more
issue.
the
Yeah, the biggest issue is we don't have enough grass space for that, because right now we're going to have two soccer fields and a football field taking up the big field area. And then we've got baseball and lacrosse over on the turf area. The only thing I could think of, I don't actually know if that would work to move that.
Maybe we have volleyball first or last.
What'd she say?
You might be able to bump volleyball up, or she said to do it first or last.
Yeah, I don't like, maybe there does have to be a third time slot.
We'll look at it.
Is volleyball only one time slot?
Volleyball is 2 time slots. It's 2 teams in each time slot.
2 teams in each. Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know how hot it'll be, obviously the first group coming in from like 9 to 10:15, that shouldn't be a huge issue with the heat, I don't think.
They still can't drive the ball. She's saying it's all those.
Yeah.
Well, let me do some sizing on the main field and the other one, and I'll get with Dan to see if we can make a makeshift field. I think we can do it.
All right.
I think at one point,
I mean,
I had 4 fields on there instead of 3. So
Yeah.
Volleyball does not take up.
If we're not doing like games, they don't need a lot of space.
right.
We really only need the net and one side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
it's really not that much space.
So she doesn't probably actually know this then because volleyball, they are allowed to actually have a scrimmage.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wasn't told that.
Yeah, sorry. I
Yeah,
forgot to text you
We're
that.
going along with the
Yeah, so-
NSAA, and they're
Right, the
starting
MMA
full
approved
practice
it.
and scrimmages.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, the only sports that are allowed.
Volleyball doesn't take up a ton of room,
Mm-mm.
No,
even with both sides.
Allie,
And I'll just chime in real quick, because maybe, and Luke, I'll go to you on this possibly. We could move lacrosse possibly off turf somewhere else. I don't know how you'd feel about doing that on
That'd be
a
fine.
concrete court, though. You think
Oh,
that'd be fine?
concrete?
no,
Concrete's gonna be tough with the scooping. If we can get them on the grass or even just dirt, would be better than concrete.
Okay.
Dan,
We'll take a look at it. I think we can make it work. We'll look at it.
I think I got the idea, because football normally has a quadrant, and we're only using 3. We could put Luke in that 4th quadrant of football, and then move
Mhm.
volleyball to the next to T-ball.
The turf.
Mhm.
And I think what we could do is put maybe, how often are the balls flying everywhere, Allie? Are they kind of going all over the place?
A little bit. It kind of depends on the age group. The seniors have better control than the juniors.
Okay. I think we can figure it out. We'll look
Yeah.
at it, and we'll make the update on the field map to make it work for you guys.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you for bringing that up, Allie.
Mhm.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, my question is, Loma, Colorado, how are we going to get the truck out there? Is Joy out there already, or what? Am I going to pick them up?
You can
at
probably
her
figure that
house,
out.
or-
Yeah, you could probably do that with Joy, because Joy is actually going to be doing a time slot of cheerleading.
Right.
So I think you guys can probably work off, later this week on that. I think we'll just send a text to me and Joy, and I think it'll probably work exactly the same like it was before.
Yeah, I think she's planning on.
Okay, and Tony, how are we going to work out the truck for James Monroe?
I assumed I was just going to wind up getting it. I don't know what the plan was.
Tony's
What was
gonna-
that? I didn't hear that.
I assumed I was just going to get it like we did the
Okay.
previous season. So,
That works, Tony. Tony, that works.
yeah.
I'm good with that.
As long as Roger doesn't mind hooking it up the day before, and I can just pick it up in the morning, and that would that be for both days?
We're
Would we use the
actually-
same truck for both days, or what?
and trailers, so it's already going to be hooked up, the truck and trailer. So
I meant trailers. Same trailer for both
Correct.
both Madison and Monroe.
yep,
Easy enough.
Is it? I thought she said it was.
no, we talked about it today.
Okay, got it.
Cool. Any other questions?
See any
Good.
I don't see any
I'm-
chatted questions.
What are we doing with field day this season? Because I'm going to be honest, the interest level for field day really dropped significantly this second season that we did it. The first season, it was a novelty. People were interested. People kind of had fun. This second season, I probably had 40% of the people not even show up, and then half of the ones that show up left halfway through the first one.
Yeah, I don't think
So
any of my
we-
volleyball girls showed up.
We had minimal people show up for the field day for the last season. I am thinking, to be honest, that we might be just better off having a regular day for the final day.
Okay.
I think people would rather be out there doing the sport they signed up for.
I did receive a couple notes and emails about, I received one email and had some notes from Madison parents that were on the Madison notes at the end of the last week asking for a normal day instead of field day.
Okay, and then you think that people would be happy then with a participation medal?
I just say make it a normal day and give out your normal medal. I don't think we need to do anything special. They understand we can't play games. They understand we don't have a championship. You know, if you want to give out a participation ribbon to everybody that comes out, okay, that's the culture nowadays. But I don't think it's even necessary.
I'm with Tony on that
But that's one man's opinion, or two, since Roger agrees.
one.
Brandon also chatted in. He agrees on a normal day as well for the last day.
Okay.
Well, I can think on the weather. Maybe we whip out the old, Luke says, just for everyone as an FYI, we've had a couple experiences at Hoover, just there as a family playing wall ball on the playground, a couple of neighborhood moms taking videos of kids playing basketball. Gotcha. Well, hopefully one of the things that does set us apart when we played at Hoover during COVID is the amount of signage that we put up, you know, about social distancing and following rules and wearing masks. Hopefully that helps, that it looks like, you know, it's an approved, organized thing. I can hope so, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But maybe we think, I was about to say buying, you know, a popsicle for everybody, but it's going to be a little cooler. Since it's small enough, maybe we consider whipping out the old cupcake thing again, you know?
I wasn't even there for that,
Cupcake
but I wasn't even there
Yeah, I don't
for
know what
that.
that is either.
Well, it's, okay, so it's 6 weeks, so we won't be ending up on, what's the day we end on?
I think the 24th.
The 24th.
So close enough to Halloween that everybody dress up and have a costume contest option like our usual Halloweens. That's a possibility. Or that we come up, I buy a Halloween themed treat, you know, for everybody. It doesn't have to be food that anyone has to worry about being perishable, but maybe I just go with a Halloween theme so that it's still a special ending to the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Jessica
Yeah,
said
I think
field day is fun, but maybe
Yeah.
do competition that's sports specific. That's an option too, that we come up with a type of competition that happens just in that sport specific area.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's an option too. We're open to ideas because we do want something special to happen if we can at all. So we appreciate the input. Jessica
Mhm.
also says, I don't know what that looks like.
I don't know what it looks like.
I agree, but we can think on it. We have a few weeks to think on it for sure.
And I know I
And I
messaged
will
it-
say the
Go ahead.
younger participants tend to enjoy the field day a little bit more. But even with them, we lost a good percentage of them.
Maybe we do a hybrid where it's field day for the younger ones and, you know, for peewees and minors, and then juniors up, you have a regular day.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then you get the coaches saying, why do we have to do the field day? Why can't we do our
Yeah.
sport?
Yeah.
I think it's something that we can discuss a little more.
We have time.
We have some time just to see. Yeah, I think that
How
We have
about
some
half
ideas.
day? half the day for practice, and then like the other half, specific drill contests, like free throw shooting contests or soccer own goal contest or something like that. Like the last half of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Divided in half. Save the last half
I think
for
that's a-
some kind of
I think
contest
that's a pretty
related
good idea.
Yep.
drill.
And also by then, we're going to have a better idea about whether this state is going to come up with Halloween rules. And if they do, which some states are already starting to roll out, and if they decide to come out with some garbage of Halloween's canceled, then maybe we do lean towards the other, half practice, half something Halloween, so that parents can give their kids an opportunity to not be gypped. But we'll definitely take that all into account.
I think a hybrid might be good, but we'll talk about that more.
I think Hamilton's idea is a good idea. If we're going to do a sports-centric competition, it would be hard to make it last the entire hour and 15 minutes.
Mhm.
But if we do something where we do a practice and a drill or something like that ahead of time, and then for the last half an hour, we
Yeah.
do some kind of competition
Or you can-
to
And
wrap
then
up the
you
season,
have
I think that's a better way to do it.
participating. And everybody would be there too, so it's like they wouldn't have no excuse for missing.
Yeah.
The practice
All right, I'm gonna
locks
be
them
quiet now.
into being there.
Well, when you look at our,
And I'll just,
go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, because Evan had messaged it in, just to clarify for everybody, our Saturday locations are Saturday locations are Hoover Middle School for the Northeast and Loma Colorado Park for Rio Rancho. Those are Saturdays, and James Monroe is Sunday, just to clarify that for everybody.
And Evan, we will do something that changes up the routine on the last day. Probably just not a whole field day thing, since we're losing.
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at least for right now.